All right, we are back, and there really wasn't a whole lot to talk about with this, so let's go into Raw. So Raw did drop slightly. Well, number one, they had playoffs. Obviously, playoffs, especially this NBA playoffs, it's going to be a little bit hard. 1.638 million next to 1.716, and a 0.54 demo instead of 0.58, and it was number 5, basically right behind all the NBA games. And like I said before, there were just some weird decisions here. The whole Riddle thing with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens is pretty much played out, and they did this for the main event again, and they faced Imperium. It did absolutely nothing to do anything to anybody other than being a Raw main event. They could have utilized that time a lot better than they did, but they didn't. And there's not really much that we can do about it on that end. Everything around Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes has just been excellent, and I think with hindsight, after watching Night of Champions, that match was awesome. And it's just only going to get better. These two have a chemistry that I cannot describe. It was brutal. They paced it out throughout the night, which was good. And the ending, I think, was excellent with Triple H talking to Cody Rhodes and having that heart-to-heart there. There really wasn't a whole lot of other things that were like super big and bright and colorful. You know, Dominic Mysterio and Apollo Crews had a match. Nobody really cares. Other than maybe Apollo should have stayed on NXT if they're going to treat him like this, because, come on, we need some more people there. And you know, there just really wasn't a whole lot there for me to grasp at for Raw. It was just Raw, you know. Now, NXT did better than they did. So it was a 578,000 viewership next to 564, and it was a 0.16 next to a 0.14, and they were number 14 in the top 150. Other than the tournament, Ilya Dragunov and Dijak had a great back and forth, just awesome, very brutal, and I can't wait for their Battleground match. And, you know, Stratton and Perez was fine. It was a fun match, but Lyra Valkyria is just not clicking, and now she's getting a title opportunity. She's basically just a body for Tiffany Stratton to eat up to win the title at this point. The whole thing with Gigi Dolan and JC Jane having a weaponized cage match next week, they should have done that this week, or they should have done that at Battleground instead of this, because let's just be honest, the whole rivalry between these two is dead in the freaking water. Nothing is happening with it. And there just wasn't like that great standout match throughout this entire show. So there's not really much else to talk about as it relates to this. Oh, Dynamite. Dynamite did increase. They did, because number one, they had no NBA playoff game running against them at all. But it was still 846,000 next to 814. It was a 0.32 instead of a 0.28. So, not a big jump as it relates to viewers, but a fairly significant jump as it relates to demo, and it was still number 4 in the top 150. Aussie Open signing with AEW was a dumb decision overall. They're going to get buried to hell, and I think they just did this so somebody else splits the bill for some medical, basically. Orange Cassidy, defending the champion more frequently than others does not make a champion more prestigious. Having less title defenses makes a title more prestigious, because you only get a finite amount of times to go for that title, and it's big money. Like, come on, you guys do it well with the AEW World Champion. Jesus Christ. The Four Pillars segment was just awful. Darby Allin, I am not kidding you, was on stilts. His boots were elevated to make him look taller, and it just looked silly. Lyra Valkyria. Taya Valkyrie and Lady Frost was a mess. What a mess of a match. These two do not give a shit in AEW. They're just there for a payday. Like, they don't care. I mean, I saw them wrestle each other in Impact in okay matches, but this was just a mess. Jesus Christ. The Trios Champions. Wasn't there a point when the Trios Champions felt important? When they were doing like a best of 7 and every match was like okay?
Nope.
But now it's like, oh, we're just going to defend them in open house rules for the Trios champions because we need the House of Black on TV. Whatever, who cares? And finally, the main event was actually a fun match overall. But once again, they were starting to fall into the little avenue of defending Ring of Honor champions on AEW television. Have those matches on Ring of Honor.
Right. Because
you're putting a good match on here instead of doing it where you need the most help, which is Ring of Honor. And also, the crowd overall, yes, I can confirm a couple of things. The free tickets with burgers and fries was 100% real. There were 3 locations here in Las Vegas that did that promotion. Number 2, there was majority dissatisfaction with AEW and Ring of Honor's taping as a whole from consensus from people who were in the building. The attendance was bad. There were 1,500 seats empty that were still available for Dynamite, and that was the most watched show. And they did Rampage and Ring of Honor within the same day. That's a lot of wrestling for people. So they were just filing out after each show.
Yeah.
That's not good. That's not a good way to use your time. If I was Tony Khan, I would put Ring of Honor in intentionally smaller venues.
Right.
I would do it at Sam's Town.
Right.
There would be more energy. There might be less people there, but you would feel more energy. It would be louder. It'd be like, that's a place that I want to go to.
Right.
Instead of putting it in T-Mobile Arena, that's, 3/4 empty.
Right.
It's not a good look, and people just were complaining about it. I'm like, duh.
Yeah.
Oh, Impact Wrestling. I obviously couldn't find demo or anything, but Jesus, they pulled out all the stops for this. Speedball Mike Bailey and Chris Sabin was an absolutely phenomenal match. It was the only 2 thumbs up match during the whole show, and everything else was actually fairly good. I was not a big fan of Rosemary going back to Courtney Rush. That's annoying, but it is what it is. Steve Macklin is continuing just to be somewhat of a disappointment as a champion. I heard good things about his no disqualification match against PCO. Maybe they're starting to do a lot better with it, but as it sits right now for me, I'm kind of on the fence. Jordan Grace and Alicia was a waste of time, and there were some time wasters, but this match was absolutely spectacular because Speedball Mike Bailey just cannot do no wrong.
Right.
SmackDown. For preliminary numbers, it was a 2.027 million next to a 2.049 from last week, and it was a 0.46 next to a 0.5. But just keep in mind, it was a pre-taped show, and this went up against NBA. So there you go. There just really wasn't a whole lot here that sort of caught my attention. The Kevin Owens show was a masterclass in storytelling, but just this whole new layer of the Bloodline thing is just that consensus.
Right.
It's just been awesome in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
There's a reason why 2 million people watch SmackDown, and I think the Bloodline just has a lot to do with that. Austin Theory and Sheamus had a good match, but I just kind of wish they waited for the United States champion until later. They have potential with this 6-man tag feud with Pretty Deadly and Fury taking on Brawling Brutes. I think that's still going to be good.
Yeah.
But the blow-off should be the United States champion match, not the kickoff point.
Right.
Should be that, Cameron Grimes and Ashante Adonis was meh, but Cameron Grimes won, so there you go. AJ Styles and Karrion Kross actually had a good match. I hope they continue to follow up Karrion Kross with more good stuff like this, because the guy is good. Put him in good rivalries and programs and stuff that people care about, and you have a star with the guy.
Right.
LA Knight and Rick Boogs. I want to explain this. I did it briefly, but I'm going to do it again. I really wanted a babyface heel tag team with Rick Boogs and LA Knight. I think the dynamic would have been interesting. I think there would have been a lot of good energy. Both guys are good in the ring. I think they both have good mic skills. They have great charisma. And I think that gel would have been really nice, especially because the Street Profits are now in a feud with LA. But LA faced off and beat Boogs. Mm-hmm. You could have waited for that, you know, but they didn't do that. It was fine, but overall SmackDown was there. And obviously Rampage, just like everything, is a waste of time. And I said it on the TikTok, but I'm going to say it here because two separate audiences. As soon as Collision airs, I will be suspending reviews for Collision or for Rampage. Mm-hmm. I don't know what holds for Collision, but as of right now, I'm going to give the new place a try. I'm going to see if there's exclusive rosters, what they're going to be doing with it. But I have to take off one, and Rampage is just the easiest one to take out of my general gambit, so that's what I'm going to do for that. There was okay-ish stuff here, but once again, it was a whatever sandwich. The Acclaimed and Daddy Ass taking on La Faction Ingobernable was actually not a bad match, but obviously the Acclaimed are going to be facing the House of Black at the pay-per-view, probably. They haven't made that official yet, but I feel like that's going to be the case. The women's tag match, here's the thing. You had Baker, Shida, Nyla Rose, and Marina Shafir. It doesn't sound like the best match ever, but here's the thing. This felt like what AEW should be. It was a nice paced showcase of what AEW should be. Right. It felt different and it felt special. And this is why people were drawn to AEW in the first place. AEW has become too much WWE at this point. And watching matches like this kind of brought me back to that 2019 AEW that gave you that breath of fresh air instead of just a chore. And I think that just sort of rejuvenated me on that. And I'm glad that they're doing Big Bill and Lee Moriarty, continuing them as a tag team. I think their dynamic is interesting, and I'm hoping that they push them because I think they're good. But that's pretty much all there is for my soapbox. Overall, it was a fine show for a fine week for some wrestling. Hopefully, there will be better follow-up with everybody because, you know, there were a lot of pay-per-views this weekend. So we'll see how everybody follows up, and we'll go from there. Because even Impact Wrestling had Under Siege on Friday. Right. So literally, it was a big wash of every show that I cover. So that's all well and good. So when we come back, we're going to review Night of Champions and make it majestic again.